Thanks again for checking out the Coding Fanatic YouTube channel. Head on over to codingfanatic.com and join our mailing list for weekly updates on Android tutorials, career advice, and more. So once again, head on over to codingfanatic.com and thanks for your support. Welcome back. Now this last week has been very sobering for me in terms of Android development. I worked on the travel app and I made I made a change to the way that I use list view objects or list view layouts. And I'll show you exactly what I mean, but before I get into that, I wanted to go over some of the object-oriented programming concepts I had to use to really make this new feature and feature work moving forward work as efficiently as possible. So with all that being said, let's dive in. Oops. All right. So here we have the travel app, and if you click on the search list option, it takes you to the search activity. And my latest update, you now see the list of addresses in your list. Your entire list of addresses appears underneath the edit text, and this matches the same list that's displayed in the view list activity. However, I've formatted it differently just for the time being. Now, like I said, it did take some changes to the way I approached this issue. So let's look at the code itself and see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so for starters, what the issue I ran into with displaying these strings was that I didn't know how to get all of them here. I wanted to find a way to have some dynamic list that contains the addresses that are used in this application, but I wanted to manipulate that list as well. So if a user types in a corresponding zip code, I could only show the ones that match. So for instance, at this time, all three of them are the same, but let's say I added one for, and I do plan on updating it, but let's say I added one for Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. I want it so that when I type that in, that would be the only address displayed. And similarly, when I clear this, I want to see the entire list again. So I want a list that can be updated concurrently with the search terms entered by users. So I thought to myself, well, how the heck am I going to do that? In my original list activity, I used a string, a string array that contained each address, and I used the strings themselves to create a list adapter, which then displayed the list. But I found that that was good for a static, unchangeable list. But when it comes to the search activity, because it's dynamic, it's not so cut and dry. So what I did was I created a new class called homes.java, and essentially each object of the home class contains the address, because every home has an address, of course. So I created this class, and I added a few static strings for each address that'll be used in the application, just for the time being. Of course, we have our attributes: the street number, street name, and zip code. And a default constructor instantiates a homes object with all of these fields empty. But the one that accepts an argument will take an address, which is a string, and then it'll extract the street number, street name, and zip code from that information. And I added some test code underneath so that I could just make sure everything works properly. So, all right, we have homes objects, and you use an address to instantiate them. So, well, now what? Well, what's the big deal? What does that mean? Well, if we go back to our search activity, or search class, you'll see here that I created three objects: the first, second, and third homes object, and I used the static addresses that are in the homes class. I did this for just for the time being. I might keep it, I might not, but by sending a string that contains the entire address, I now have three homes objects with which use an address, and they already have all the right information in terms of the street name, street number, and zip code. So now later on, if I want to do something to manipulate which objects are displayed, instead of trying to search an entire string, I can use logic that extracts information from the object's data versus trying to parse a string. So as we go down here, you'll see that I created a new list view, and I created an original adapter, and I added the first object, second, and third. And I use this method called getAll, which is in a way a two-string method. It's just the name I gave it for the time being. But think of it as the string representation of each of these objects. Of course, similar to the list addresses.java, I can manipulate these strings by adding the new line operator so that it displays similar to the way it does here in our view list activity. So here we are back in our search list in our class, and I have the display adapter, which is an adapter I created specifically to be changed dynamically, and I'm just assigning it the exact same references as the original adapter, or rather the same a copy of these references. And now I set this adapter, so now this is what is displayed on screen. So this whole process was challenging, but it was very sobering at the same time, because it made me realize just how far I have to go in terms of my skills in Android development. I do still enjoy it, and I acknowledge the areas where I'm strong, but actually applying the concepts that I learned in my Java courses over the years, this is the first time I've done it to create a project of my own. Usually in school and in class, we have these little smaller projects where we create something and we run it in the terminal and create a calculator or compute interest on a loan over this amount of time with this fixed percentage, or things like that. But this is the first time that I've used it to create a project of my own, and it took me a while I had to corner myself and get to this place where I didn't know how to move forward, because like I said, the list addresses class uses a string array, which is fine for that class, or at least for now. But at some point, what if I wanted to add logic that updates the lists in real time, or allows users to go in and make changes to the list? Or I might want to do a call to a database that pulls the information of the addresses, and I need to make sure that when that database is updated, the app is updated as well. And having this string array does not quite cut it. So it's good for the time being, just for the basics of this app. But like I said, as I move forward and get better at Android development, I'm going to have to start coming up with more. I also have to start using more advanced techniques, such as object-oriented programming, to get everything working the way I want it to. So that about does it. Next time, my next step is going to be to come back and refactor the code that I have here to eliminate this string array business, and again, just create instances of the homes class. So just create homes objects and use those to display the list instead of a string array. And after that, then I'll add some logic that'll let me use the text here in this edit text object to update this list. And with that, the application will be done. Of course, it's easier said than done, but I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm hoping that you're willing to continue watching me on this journey. So thanks again for tuning in, checking out the Coding Fanatic YouTube channel. This is your host, Richard Clark. As always, go ahead and like and comment, Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. And if you go over to the Coding Fanatic website, then you can subscribe to the mailing list so that you get regular updates when I create new videos, tutorials, articles on career advice, and even more than that. So once again, this is your host, Richard Clark, signing out, and I will see you all on the next one. Peace.